Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Doing a live stream tonight, and we're going to take some questions, and we're going to just chat with you guys and hang out. Now, I did start this one a little differently because I took a bunch of questions early, and I think I'm going to start doing that ahead of time, because usually when I start one of these live streams off, there's always a lot of time before people all filter in, and so like there's always this, like I always say, like maybe the first 10 minutes or so are a little slower, and so taking questions from the community does two things. For one, it fills in that earlier period of time, and it also fills in that early period of time. So do those two things. It's the exact same thing. No, but it also gives other people who an opportunity to interact with that maybe aren't able to be on exactly when I jump in to do a live chat. So with that being said, I am going to share this out real quick, and I'm going to share the video on the fact that I'm doing live on Twitter and Facebook, and just saying, hey, come check us out. And but I'm going to address some of the that's not so you don't know why it's showing the but whatever. Live chat tonight. All right, I'm bumping into stuff. All right. But yeah, so but anyway, I'm going to prioritize questions from patrons, and also then I'll start off with some questions that were also on the community page. So if you're not familiar with the community page, it's like this option on Facebook where you can like, I don't know, have like a wall where you can just make a post, kind of like Facebook integrated into YouTube. So first up is one of my patrons actually asked about that, that if I did if I was going to do an unboxing or a review for the Wave 4 for X-Wing, the movement templates, and if so, that like I should paint them up and stuff like that. So I've got news, a little preview, early preview, a video that's being in the works right now that should be up tomorrow. Is yes, I did. I did get the templates, and I also, in addition to like, I didn't like do the normal painting where I just like paint the highlighted areas. I found a new type of paint. So here's one of them, and I'm going to try and show this. It's not going to show up that well because we're like on a webcam right here. But I painted one side white, and I painted the other side in this. It's a new. Like, you may see cars painted in this. It's like a chameleon color. It's a. Here, let me see. Basically, depending on the angle you look at it, it might look blue, or it might look purple, or it might look dark blue, light blue, or purple. So it's really not showing up very good on here, but it's a really cool, and it's from Testers. Testers makes this, and that's pretty slick. So. Yeah, that's a little bonus for for JJ from Patreon. So that is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and let's look at more questions. I'm going to take some from the community chat, and there's a couple of questions about the SSD for Armada. I'll talk about the SSD for Armada first. The news is we have no news. The Rebellion in the Rim got updated first, and it's Rebellion in the Rim is currently like on the boat, which was updated in time that it a lot of Armada players think it's going to be a Gen Con. I don't think they will say what's going to be early release at Gen Con. I don't know what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for like a couple days before. I really want them to tell me what's going to be early release at Gen Con, so I know if I need to bring a giant suitcase or not. Because if I'm bringing a giant suitcase to Gen Con, I have to pay to get it there, and then I have to pay to get it home. So I don't want to pay $50 for a giant empty suitcase to go in my checked luggage just to get there and be like, no, we're not selling anything. You know, or like, well, I mean, obviously they'll sell stuff, but are they only going to sell the stuff that's already out? You know, so like, I just want to know. I might save myself $100 in luggage fees there, because then if I'm there and they're not selling anything, then I got this giant empty suitcase I got to ship home. You know, so anyway, but we don't know. I thought for sure the SSD would be out before Gen Con, and then as it got closer, I was thinking, oh, well, it'll definitely at least be out by Gen Con. I don't think it's going to be out until maybe Christmas. Honestly, that's what I feel like right now, but they haven't. I mean, if it's officially still Q3, so what? Late July, August, September, maybe the last week of September if we're lucky. All right, so but there's no updates on the SSD. It's still quote unquote in development. Now, granted, also we'll say that it does not matter specifically. If if people see it being updated on the site or not, because that's not necessarily the end all be all. But the fact that Rebellion in the Rim was updated and the SSD wasn't kind of tells me something. So what is something you absolutely have to have that would make you disappointed if you left Gen Con without it? That comes from Ziegel. That's a great question. Now, that's a tough question because it kind of goes into the previous thing. I don't know exactly what's going to be there, and I struggle to really set expectations really high on exactly what I'm going to get out of Gen Con. But I'll say this: it's got to be provisional because we don't even know what's currently available or what's going to be available yet. Although aside of FFG, I'll say that the Zombicide game, which I do enjoy, has 2 separate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle expansions that are out. One at the IDW booth and one at the CMON booth, and those would be really fun to get. So I might try and pick those up if I can. Those will be fun. I hope they do them in the Black Plague format eventually also. But there's ways to convert, your normal Zombicide characters into Black Plague. So, so I would like to do that. That would be fun. But as far as FFG goes, obviously, whatever, I absolutely have to have everything that they pre-release, right? Like that's pretty much like everything that's not also coming out like that same week. So everything like Clone Wars core set for Legion and all of that initial stuff, or at least the core set, because in theory, like all the stuff, the expansions that are in the core set, like those aren't really that big of a deal. Like I could wait to unbox the B1 Battle Droids expansion because it's going to be the exact same thing that's in the core set. So like that type of stuff, I guess, isn't as crucial. Anything for Armada is going to be crucial. Rebellion in the Rim or SSD, if those come out, those are absolutely clutch if they're available. And I don't think Wave 5. I don't think they'll have anything for X-Wing, since Wave 4 technically just came out yesterday, officially. So I don't think that'll be there. Any new release stuff that they deliver at the in-flight brief, like last time they gave out 2 Keyforge decks last year. That was a big deal. So any of those kind of like, oh, well, since you're here, you also get that. Like that's, I was very quick to get my in-flight brief ticket. So I'm going to definitely try and do that. But the other thing I'll say that is must-have is if they have any Gen Con exclusives. So like how they had the Vader, the exclusive Vader for Star Wars Celebration. If I would have been heartbroken if even working for them if I didn't get the Vader. So I would have to get that. And if somehow I wasn't, like if they said people who work for us aren't eligible to buy anything anymore, I would be very, very upset because I would have just gone without working for them instead. Let's see. I got some others here on the community chat, and I'm going to get to the questions in chat, and so I apologize if it's taking me a little while. Bear with me, and if you want your question answered first, I'll do super chats first as well. But otherwise, you'll have to wait your turn. I'll try and get to as many as I can, though. All right, let's see here. Let's talk about Armada. I kind of did that. Our feelings. We can definitely talk about our feelings. I had some bad feelings. Try to keep your expectations low, and then your feelings won't be hurt quite so much. Let's see. Who's your favorite Rebel Armada commander? Favorite Imperial commander? Rebels, maybe Akbar. Imperial, Darth Vader. About the game table that I have? Some questions about the game table. I like having a game table. I like having a big table. I love having a big table. I don't think it's going to last very long. It's made very poorly, and it creaks and makes lots of wood noises. Like not like a $1,400 table should. It was, it feels like something I built myself and isn't going to last. That's kind of how I feel, and it makes me sad. All right, let's see. I'm going to look at some more stuff. Let's talk about politics and religion. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Let's see. You're a new person who just joined X-Wing after playing Armada for a few months. Maybe talk about the difference between the factions for a newbie. Oh boy. X-Wing factions are, well, the first three are huge and have lots and lots of history behind them. The new ones are still kind of coming into their own right. Like, I don't think the First Order and granted, I don't play as much X-Wing, and I definitely don't play a whole lot of First Order and Resistance. But like, I don't feel like they really have their own feel yet. I feel like the First Order and Resistance are still just as much in their infancy as the Republic and the Separatists are right now. So, like, it's going to be. I think it's going to take a couple more waves until they really have like a solid identity. And I don't even know if their identities are going to be that severe because there's so much overlap, you know. But you know, I think that the bigger standout factions are going to be the Clone Wars factions, because those are more significant with the amount of Jedi and the amount of droids and swarmy type of stuff. I think that's it's definitely more significant. All right, now we can go ahead and jump into. I'm going to jump into regular questions now from the chat, so we'll kind of talk about some of that. And I do want to tell you guys too, we got a new game I'm going to be working on a Kickstarter preview for, called Etherfields from Awaken Realms. So if you guys are familiar with Awaken Realms, they are one of my favorite board game companies. They have made games like Lords of Hellas and Nemesis and a lot of that sort of thing. And hey Cameron, what's going on? Yeah, I'm actually trying to get a game of Armada going tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, but Awaken Realms is one of my favorite companies. They make a lot of really good stuff. But I just got this last night, and the Kickstarter launches Tuesday, so it's going to be really tough for me to give a full tutorial on it, because oh my gosh, it's a very, very different game. I think I will probably keep my review very, very, I don't know, distant. I don't want to go into too much details because it's going to be hard to learn all of the details in that time. But I'm definitely going to. It's got beautiful miniatures, beautiful art. It's one of the most gorgeous games I have ever seen. And so I think I'm going to concentrate my preview video more on look at this game rather than here is exactly how all the mechanics work. What is my favorite fish? It's a narwhal. And I don't care if that's technically not a fish or not. That's my answer today. My favorite Star Wars fish? Well, I mean, it's Akbar, right? What is your favorite Star Wars book? That's a very, very good one. Are we talking new canon or Legends right now. From Legends, it's definitely the Thrawn trilogy, and from New Canon, it's Thrawn. Followed very, 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 very closely by Lost Stars, because Lost Stars is really good. Actually, we can talk about books a little bit too, because I just recently finished Alphabet Squadron, and that one was pretty cool. And I'm going to give you guys a not really much of a spoiler. It's just a very, 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 very minor thing, like a ship that was just mentioned in that book. The Lancer Corvette was mentioned in that book, so I thought that was pretty cool. It was like a background detail. It was nothing more, but I love when they casually just like, oh, and by the way, that's canon. Like I love that. That's pretty cool. So Armada folks, maybe we'll see a Lancer Corvette at some point. So that's cool. What is my favorite capital ship? That's a tough one. Let's like for right now. I mean, like in Armada, it's the Architans, right? It's definitely the Architans right now. But like in all of the books, I really like a lot of things. Like I like the Raddus from the movies. I thought it was a beautiful ship. I like, and from the new movies, also like the First Order Dreadnought. I like that one. From Legends, I like the Bellator. I like, but like from the original movies, I've always really liked the Nebulon B. I thought it was a very, very cool looking ship. Big fan of the Nebulon B. And of course, I really like Imperial Star Destroyers. And I like the Super Star Destroyer as well. But also from Legends, the look of the Eclipse in Legends, I would really love to see something like. I want to see the Eclipse in Episode 9. I hope the First Order has done something to the Eclipse and given it that goatee. That would be really cool. All right. Let's see. Why do you like Legion? That's a loaded question. Legion's fun, and there's a lot of people I know that are playing it, and so that's one of the things. Those two things both make it very easy to get games in, and there's a lot of stuff coming out for it. I like the feel of it. I like the strategy. It's similar to Armada as far as I'm concerned. Like the whole like like activating, you go back and forth activating, and activating one unit and moving, and and it has like a gameplay flow that is in the same ballpark as Armada. Also uses a 6x3, and it's also Star Wars and stuff. I don't think Legion is perfect. I actually really, really wish that Legion was the miniatures. It was on a smaller scale, like a 10 or 15 millimeter game. So this way you could get the really, really, really big stuff, like the AT-ATs and even the Mega Cannon Walker. Like I wish they would have just said, what's the biggest ground vehicle we could ever possibly want to put on the board? And I think if you look at Episode 8, the Battle of Crate, with those Mega Walkers, that would probably be the biggest thing that you could possibly fit. And make it to where that is possible to use those, and then scale everything down from there. So maybe those guys would be like this big, like they'd be like as big as like the SSD, and then scale everything else down from there. You still have like the AT-ATs as big, and you could even, and if it was that scale, you could even get like X-Wings and stuff. Honestly, it should have been done in X-Wing scale, and then you could totally made those games compatible. Like I always wanted I still kind of want the X-Wing ground game, and I always wanted the X-Wing ground game. So when Legion came out, I was like, oh, is this going to be kind of like that? And then I saw the scale, and I'm like, whoa, it's not. And at that scale, can they do an AT-AT? So initially, I was a little upset, but I really liked it. It was a lot of fun, and I still play it. And I still play it all the time. And I like painting. You can't type that fast. I type pretty fast, but I've got a loud, clicky keyboard, so it makes it sound. Every key sounds like you push in and out, so it makes it sound like I'm typing faster than I am. What day am I at Gen Con? All of the days. I'm at Gen Con the whole time. I am. Let's see. My schedule is like all over the place, and it's still subject to change. But like they have me teaching a different game every day. So I think like the first day I'm on XWing, and like one day I'm teaching Outer Rim, one day I'm teaching Legion, one day I'm like doing like 2 different games, and like I'm gonna be like tournament support for like half of like the last day. So probably like last year the tournament support was fun because I got to judge Legion tournaments. And it wasn't like the super. It wasn't like the World Champions. It was like the fun, casual events at the end of the con, like the team 2 versus 2 tournaments and stuff. And it was just like answering simple questions because there were a lot of new people that could just like buy a core set and then put it together and then play. And it was very relaxed kind of environment. And the con was over. Everybody's in a good mood. Some people are flying home. Everybody's high fiving and shaking hands. And like I liked that tournament support level where you just kind of interacting with players and talking and answering questions. And I do really like working for FFG at these cons. It's a cool experience. It's a great way to meet a lot of people, and also occasionally I'll meet one of you guys or a viewer who'll come up and get to chat for a little bit. So like it's just a really great opportunity. And honestly, I just freaking it's just it gets me it gives me access to places that I might not have like all the hotels, all the good hotels were sold out. So like it also but they have like a block of rooms for people who are working for them. So that's cool too. Like it helps the the logistics of getting to a con too. Like working for them, it's just like I would seriously put myself in major debt if I was just going to the con for fun. I'd have to drive and then stay in a hotel really, really far away. But then driving that far to like from Orlando to Indianapolis, like that would take me a couple of days. I think that'd be rough. That would be rough. I don't know. I don't know. I was running my head. I was considering doing something like that. I'm like, no. Then I'm going to get bored too. And that's the other thing that's cool about working a con. Because I went to Dice Tower Con, which is down here in Orlando. I guess it was the last Dice Tower Con. And there was so much like just walking around trying to get into a game, but everything's full. And just like, if you just like going to a con by yourself, hoping to like that it's all going to work out. It was miserable. It was a freaking miserable time. Miserable time. I ended up staying home in the final 3 days of the con and not even going back. It was just, yeah. So like working, keeps you busy, gives you something to do. Also, all right. Let's see. All right. So let me get back to questions. And I've got a super chat from Devontae Morrison. Thank you. More Sith troopers than the last few movie exclusives. So you're asking, are we going to get more Sith Trooper than the last few movie exclusives for what? Like, I don't know what. Are you talking about as far as collectibles are concerned? I do think there will be more Sith Troopers available because if you look at the movie poster, there is like 100 of them. Maybe not 100, but like at least 20 featured on there. So I do think there's going to be lots of Sith Troopers in the movie. But yeah, but as far as like movie exclusives, gosh, what were the last movie exclusives? They had the First Order Stormtrooper. If you're talking Hasbro Black Series, they did a Hasbro Black Series did a Star Wars Episode 7 SDCC exclusive that was just the First Order Stormtrooper in that fancy white box, and it was like, it really, because then they totally released the exact same Stormtrooper just in a normal box later on. So like the only thing that was SDCC exclusive was the box, unless I'm mistaken. Now, I think the next year they did Grand Admiral Thrawn, and that one was awesome. I eBayed one of those and ordered the Grand Admiral Thrawn because the box was beautiful. But I can't. I have too much stuff, too many board games, and too many figures. I can't save the boxes for everything. So I held onto that box for like a year or two. I finally threw it out. But in addition to the box, you had Thrawn had like all these extra little pieces. So I think this Sith Trooper that's SDCC exclusive from Hasbro, I think what's it's going to be exclusive there is all the extra guns. Like, he's got this thing that looks like a giant man catcher from, like, what, D&D 2nd edition, or like just this giant clamp. Like, I'm curious if that's going to be in the movie, because I've never seen anything like that before. But yeah, so that's weird. But yeah, so I do think there's going to be more Sith troopers, a lot more in the movies. I think you'll be able to also get the Sith trooper, like, regular figure itself. And but I don't think you'll get the regular one. I don't think you'll get all of the weapons, and you definitely won't get that special box. If you care about boxes, maybe worth it to you. I'm not a big box person, although I do appreciate a nice box from time to time. But that's about it. All right. So yeah, thank you for the super chat, and good question. Let's go ahead and get back to some more of these here. Let's see. What large... Let me see. Have you ever thought of doing painting tutorials? I've done a couple of painting videos, but I'm not good enough to do tutorials. And my eyesight is little by little getting... Like, I'm starting to get old man eyes. And so, like, I think if I'm going to, like, try to do better, like, really better, like, the super fine details, like trying to paint the Phoenix on Sabine's, like, armor and stuff, like, I'm going to have to get, like, those weird, like, goggles that, like, that have the magnifying glasses on them, because, yeah, I'm getting old. All right, let's see. Do you think we will ever see the SSD before you drop dead of old age? That's a great question. But yeah, I talked about that earlier. I'm going to try not to repeat too many questions. So if you're just joining in and you're curious about the SSD, you can restart the video, and then you get to that question, and you hit live, and it'll take you back to now. Let's see. Do you have a Nebulon C? No. Have, let's see. Let's see. Do I paint? What suggestions do I have for somebody who has no talent for supplies? How do you start? Well, I would suggest checking out somebody like Sarastro, watching video tutorials on YouTube. If you're interested in getting into Legion, or just interested in painting miniatures in general, just start watching tutorials on YouTube. YouTube has and definitely check out Sarastro, Sorastro. Mark Sarastro has great tutorials for games like Zombicide, Imperial Assault, Legion, and probably some other stuff. If there's anything else outside of those three, it's escaping me at the moment. Oh, and Lord of the Rings. He's done some of the Lord of the Rings stuff as well, but does great tutorials. But here's the thing. Also, you've got to practice. You've got to try new techniques. Don't try to, like, start with super advanced techniques right away. Just, like the simple basics, right? Prime, do a base coat, a wash, and then maybe some highlights or something like that, right? Work on, some of those, so some simple base concept, simple base concepts, and then, once you get better and you start getting better, then try new things. Oh, now I'm going to try dry brushing. Now I'm going to try, wet brushing and smoothing things out that way. And now I'm going to try, like, individual highlights, or now I'm going to try, like, there's all kinds of interesting techniques and advanced effects and things that you can do. Contrast paints are a new thing. You can look into those, but I mean, I don't know about those. They're okay for some things, but my point is, there's a lot of tutorials out there you can look into. Also, if you don't want to practice on an expensive miniature, relatively, like maybe Legion miniatures, you could always just buy a box of, like, army men, or like go to the dollar store and get some, like, army men or something like that, and practice painting on those. Get your nerves, work those out of your system. Definitely clean your brushes too, or just go with super cheap. Like, I don't always take the best care of my brushes, but I buy cheap brushes. Like, I buy a whole value pack of like 7 or 8 brushes for like $3.99, and so they only last me, a couple of painting sessions each, and then I end up having to throw them out. So, but they're so cheap, I don't feel like I'm really wasting an expensive brush. I don't know. I don't know if that's even good advice. That might be terrible advice. Better painters would be like, no, get a good brush and take care of it. I mean, that sounds like, the grown-up in me says, you know what, that probably makes more sense, to take care of your things. Yeah. But yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and Let's look at some more questions here. Do you think the Brahatok gunship, or Dornian gunship, right, could be a combat-oriented flotilla in Armada? Absolutely. It's it's a lot of people look, from the movies, and you look at like the angles where you see the Dornian gunship or the Brahatok. It almost is framed in a way where it seems like it's about the same size as a Corellian corvette, and it's not. It's not. It's a small ship. It's much closer to the size of a GR-75. So, at least according to like Wikipedia. So if you're looking up this ship, and it's definitely one of the most canon ships that we haven't seen yet. And it's been in multiple movies now and in Star Wars Rebels. So we definitely need to see the Dornian gunship, and it's not a small ship as far as size goes. I feel like it would be a flotilla, and I would love to see more types of flotillas. And it makes me also wonder if the ruling of flotillas, like having only 2 in a normal build, was a good idea, especially if we're going to have different types of flotillas. Now, they could always roll back that ruling and say, okay, we're upping the limit. I don't even think you need a flotilla limit right now. I don't think you really do, but, or maybe you could just raise the flotilla limit at least to maybe 3 or 4 if we get new types of flotillas out there, because, that would be cool. Or maybe you say combat flotillas are exempt from the limit of 2. Maybe you do something like that, because they'll probably be more expensive. Dornian gunships would definitely be more expensive than a GR-75. And I would love it if they were exempt from that limit. All right, let's see. Why do you think there are so many haters in Legion, and do you have any tips to help strengthen local Legion communities? Well, I'm really not sure what the haters that you're talking about are, because I don't know. Like, whenever a game grows sufficiently large, you run into drama at some point. There's going to be, especially if a game is affordable by young people. Young people tend to want to argue and fight a little bit more, and usually more grown, responsible adults have more civilized ways of working out their differences, or maybe they just don't let minor things impact them as much. But younger people tend to be more sarcastic and get offended more easily. And, so like if that's what you're talking about, I would just say that it probably has to do with the hobby itself and the fact that it's a lot less expensive and a lot cheaper to get into than Warhammer was. I am understanding that while I'm not a 40K player, Warhammer does have a lot of elitist mentality in it. And since some of that crowd has kind of been pulled into Legion because that's kind of one of the target audiences, I understand that there's kind of a sense of elitism and dare I say douchebaggery that is sometimes out there, but I personally don't run into much of that. Like maybe it has to do with like the social media kind of circles that I run in. Like usually, like when I'm on, like, let's say like the Legion Discord or a Legion Facebook groups, I usually run into pretty cool people. I've had a handful of jerks that have been rude or not constructive or just generally being jerky people. I've seen a little bit of that, but not very much. And so it's not enough for me to become jaded and say, you know what, there's just too many jerks in this hobby. Because when you run into 99 nice people and one really rude person, it can definitely skew you and make you jaded. But it's important to remember the 99, and because that means a lot. And honestly, that's like just a life lesson in general. But yeah, as far as the hobby is concerned, I think there's a whole lot more awesome folks playing these games than jerky people. So if that addresses your question, I hope that it does. But yeah, there's just and it's also an internet thing. Sometimes people find it much easier to just toss insults rather than actually be constructive. And then also sometimes things are lost on the internet. Like maybe somebody's trying just to make a lighthearted joke and it didn't translate well to text, and it makes it seem like they're trying to be deliberately, cruel. So sometimes the tone and the voice would, there's another aspect to this too. Is like tabletop gaming sometimes also attracts people that maybe aren't that social. I just see a lot of people show up to game days and stuff that maybe don't have the best social skills, and their ability to interact with other people is less developed than everyone else. And so when they do start to feel a little more comfortable, it's very easy for them to make social mistakes and accidentally upset somebody, or so I think that's another aspect too. And if we can, when we see instances of that, try to correct somebody and be forgiving rather than just attack them right back. That's probably a good thing for the community. We have to be willing to forgive people, even if maybe they don't really deserve it. It's good for the community as a whole if we find ourselves more forgiving. You haven't seen any more videos on Battlestar Galactica Starship Battles. Yeah, I haven't really been playing that. There's just been a lot of games. I'm getting more review requests to check out other games, and I'm learning a lot more systems. And like as much as I do like Battlestar, if they want me to look at more stuff, if they wanted to send me more stuff, if Ares wanted to send me like anything else for Battlestar Galactica, I'd definitely review it, unbox it, and do all of that stuff. But I'll be honest, I have not been able to play very much. It just hasn't happened. I haven't even played Armada in like 2 months. I haven't played X-Wing in maybe 2 or 3 months. I haven't played X-Wing in a while. I need to. We got a whole bunch of new ships now. Been playing Legion a lot, but like X-Wing and Armada, I've hardly been able to play lately. And it's like I need to get me some starship combat going. In Armada, ships are, in your opinion, too important. What do you think could help balance ships and squadron interactions? How would you change their interactions? New upgrades. Well, that's... or squadrons are too important. Oh, edit. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like, well, interesting. No, I agree. I feel like... And I felt this way for a long time. The squadrons are too important in Armada. They, especially... It becomes especially pronounced if you bring a very squadron light build to a game and you get destroyed by like a heavy bomber swarm where you never stood a chance. Like it's like really, I would I would have liked if I was designing Armada from the beginning. The other problem I have with squadrons is that they're really out of scale and they take up. Especially if you bring like lots of like TIE fighters and stuff, they take up a huge amount of resources on the board. Or as far as space, they take up a lot of space. Like try running like 16 TIE fighters, it's going to take up like that much space on your board. When in reality, they'd be specks. You wouldn't even be able to see them when a Star Destroyer is only like this big. You wouldn't even be able to. You might see like a little blink of like their engine exhaust. So what I would have liked to have seen is for squadrons to be represented by dice, like green dice, like a new color of dice in Armada. And so like if I'm a Star Destroyer and I've got a lot of squadrons, instead of attacking, I could maybe launch fighters, maybe at a certain range or whatever. You'd probably have to be kind of close, or maybe you launch. Well, we'll figure out the ranges later, but I might have basically handled squadrons with an amount of dice. And maybe those dice get committed to a certain point, and like once they're launched, I can't roll them again until they come back. And maybe I start off with a dice pool of like 5, and then as I lose squadrons, then next time if I want to launch squadrons again, I'm only going to be able to roll 2 dice because I lost a bunch. I would have done it that way. That would have gotten the squadron miniatures off of the table, and it would have allowed more room for ships. I would have liked that. However, there are a lot of folks that disagree with me on that, and that's fine. Because there's a lot of people that really like seeing the X-Wings and Y-Wings and stuff on the table. I understand that. And because that also is thematic. You kind of want to see the X-wing in the Millennium Falcon flying alongside like the Nebulon and stuff, and recreate certain scenes. So yeah, no, I totally get that. So, but some other things that they could do is they could change. A lot of people have suggested making squadrons where they have to actually touch in order to be engaged instead of making everything range 1. That would speed up a lot of stuff. Might make them might make them easier to actually play. Maybe it'll make them quicker, so you don't have to measure things. It would be fun. I'd be down for trying something like that. Who am I more hyped to play in Armada Clone Wars? That's a really tough one. I'm gonna say Separatists right now because of their like the Malevolence. I really want to see how like a giant, because that should be another huge ship. Well, not as big as the SSD. It still falls into the huge category. And then Separatists should have 2 huge ships. I think the Lucre Hulk should also technically be a huge ship. So they could have that. And I want to see how they do Separatists. But I want to see how that ion cannon would shoot. And I know that probably won't be one of the first things to come out. I think something like the Supremacy, or I think, no, it's not the Supremacy. It's, well, now the name of the Malevolence. Something like the Malevolence would be, tricky to actually print, because this is a really big expansion. But I'd love to see how they actually implement because it was a slow moving thing. So maybe it's like you actually fire a projectile and it travels across the board over the course of like 2 or 3 turns. Like that would be really cool. I'd really love that. But yeah, so that would be fun. Let's see. Let's run some more questions. All right. What will happen to Armada with this X-Wing new packs? I'm not really sure I understand the question. What will happen to Armada with this X-Wing new packs? No, I don't know. I mean, Armada. Oh, do you mean like with the huge? Yeah. So some people have said in the comments of some like the Facebook postings and Twitter postings, they're like, "Why are we making X-Wing epic stuff when if you want that you could just play Armada?" I get that. X-Wing epic stuff is, X-Wing's a much bigger game, and there's people that want to, also use their 1.0 stuff. This was something they were just going to have to do, and honestly, it is fun. The new playing X-Wing Epic is very fun. You get really, really, really big miniatures on the tabletop, and that's cool. But Armada is just so much better as far as gameplay goes. It's so much more strategic, in my opinion. For me, it is. X-Wing is also strategic, and it's a different level. It's a different type of strategy because there's a little bit more about you have to look at different things specifically. But yeah, like Armada is just. It's going to be around for a while. I mean, they're still they're making Clone Wars, so Armada's got a long future ahead of it. Will there ever be more medium ships for the Rebels? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I think the Assault Frigate Mark 1 would probably be a good option, but maybe they'll announce that at Gen Con. Maybe. Have you read the Aftermath series? Yes, I have. And Chuck Wendig crafted a pretty cool story, and it was written with some of the worst writing skill I've ever seen. They're some of the worst books ever as far as actually reading them. Like, he jumps between like third person and first person, and the grammar is bizarre. It's so hard to read, but the story was cool, and it has some really cool stuff. I love the Battle of Jakku. I can't wait to see the Starhawk. I want somebody to make a Starhawk. I want the Starhawk in Armada. I thought that would be a great SSD counter. I was surprised that the SSD was launching by itself, because that would have been a perfect, Rebel counterpart to it. I didn't like that they killed a main character off screen in Aftermath. Like, that was like weird. But it's also cool that like some of the stuff from Aftermath is getting in, like Mr. Bones now is in Destiny, so that's kind of cool. Do you think we'll get new epic ships for X-Wing? Well, yeah. And what epic ships would you like to see? I do think we'll get more huge, and technically they're huge ship now, because epic is the new format that allows you to have multiplayer scenarios and use the wing tool and stuff like that. The huge ships are not restricted only to epic format. They're playable in normal games as well. I just think the only restriction is I don't think they will be tournament legal, but I wonder if you can use them in leagues, in league play. That would be a cool question, But anyway, the question is, what new epic ships do you think would you like to see? I want to go. There's a couple that I think just naturally would fit. Like I feel like the Hammerhead Corvette would be a really good, obvious fit. The Consular Cruiser, I think, the one that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan arrive on in the very, very beginning of Episode 1, would be a good Republic, equivalent. Things like that. I wouldn't mind seeing the new updated version of the Raider that you see in Battlefront 2, the Corvus 2.0. I would like to see that. But really, I want to see bigger ships. I want to see a Nebulon. Because, look, like Space Rocks was this company that was making Nebulons for a reasonable price. They were making Nebulons, and they're big and they're beautiful. And they got a cease and desist letter years ago. And, like, they never went forward with trying to make... FFG never went forward with trying to make a Nebulon, at least that we know of. Maybe they did. Maybe it's one of those things that lurked in playtesting for years. Like, we know now that the Super Star Destroyer has been kind of in the works ever since like Wave 2 of X-Wing, or of Armada, rather. So yeah, like, that's wild. So I definitely want to see, bigger ships. I'd like to see an Architans for the Empire. I'd like to see kind of medium, like, light cruiser stuff, a Gladiator Star Destroyer maybe. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun. Those would be obscenely expensive, and they'd be really, really big and difficult to store, though. So maybe no rush on that, but I think it would be fun. What expansions would you like to see in Legion, X-Wing, and Armada that haven't been released yet? Gosh, that's a huge question. Because there's a lot of things that I'd like to see in all of those games. I think I've already talked about some of the stuff I would want to see in Armada, like Dornian gunships, Starhawk, Assault Frigate Mark 1, things like that. I'd love to see. X-Wing. There's one. You know what? I'm gonna jump to Legends and go with Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games. I'd like to see, and this is I'm gonna put this down for Legion also, but I'd love to see Starkiller and Legion. But the Rogue. Gosh, the Rogue Shadow, I would think was the name of Starkiller's ship. And I wouldn't mind seeing that in X-Wing. That'd be fun because it could get you, because they took old girl out, and so yeah, I want to see them show up again. I want to see some some of that. And for Legion, I just want all the Jedi from the prequels. I want Mace Windu. I want Darth Maul. I want every lightsaber wielding character, yeah, I definitely want that. And then more of the bounty hunters too, because I'm working on a hero battle format, which is like a King of the Hill. Everybody brings one character and fights for the middle. I'm working on something like that for Legion, in a way to kind of balance all of the heroes, so Leia can potentially fight against Palpatine. So yeah. All right. Which Star Wars character would you like to see in Armada? Which character? Well, it's hard to say for the Clone Wars because I don't know what they're likely to do. I'd like to... Gosh, I'm trying to think, because there's some that are coming already. Like Krennic is coming in the Super Star Destroyer. And we've already got Thrawn. He's a good one. I wouldn't mind seeing Eli Vanto. How about Eli Vanto? You know, because he's from the Thrawn books. I'll go with that. Or Starkiller. I'll put Starkiller in everything. All right. What novel or book would you recommend from the Star Wars universe that's canon? Well, all right, I'm going to suggest... So, I'll give you my top, like, 3 or 4 right now, but check out... I have a top 10 books that are canon. Look up Crabbok Top 10 Books, and on YouTube, and you'll find my... this is an older list, but it's still mostly true, because a lot... Here's the thing. I read a lot of books. And I haven't always read a lot of books. So if you're like, oh, have you read this? No. I started reading a lot of books like 3 or 4 years ago. When I say a lot of books, I used to never read. So if I read 1 book a month, that's good. But I started reading somewhere between 12 and 24 books a year, depending on the year. Some years, I think 1 year I got up to like almost 30 books. But yeah, so like, so for me, that's a lot of books. And especially if there's like a book series that I'm really, really big on. Like when I was doing the Dresden Files, I read those all like really, really rapidly. But like there's some really great authors out there. There's really, really great authors. And when I then go back to like, oh, the newest Star Wars canon book came out. I'm like, oh, okay, let me read this. Oh, it's like, it's such, like the Star Wars books, almost all of them completely suck compared to great authors who write great books, in my opinion. Now, I still enjoy them. I find a way to enjoy even a book like Phasma, which was one of the worst Star Wars books I've ever read. There were still cool characters in there, and there's still positives to take out of even a bad book. But I just thought the whole premise of that was just absolutely absurd. I just couldn't, it was absolutely ridiculous. So Phasma, bad book, right? But like some good books there are just naturally really, really good authors out there. And I think here's the problem. Some of the really good books that I have read are done by people who have spent their life working on a story, or maybe not just their life, but years and years and years working on a story. And they can take their time. Like, look at George R.R. Martin and how he publishes, like, the Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire books. What is it, like, he writes one every 10 years now? Whereas Disney now, with the new canon, they've got a schedule. Like, if you're contracted to write a book for Disney, you need to get it done in, like, 6 months. You better get this done now. You better start the next one. Oh, you're doing a trilogy? Okay, you've got 5 months for the first book, 4 months for the second book, and only 3.5 months for the third book. Boom, get them done. So I feel like that might be one reason why the Star Wars books are so bad in general. And I'm only saying that compared to really great books that I really love, like the Dresden Files or The Expanse. Those books are freaking life-changing. They're amazing. And maybe it's not fair for me to compare the Star Wars books to really great books that have come highly recommended. But I definitely do. I definitely do compare those, because those are books that I love, and I wish all the Star Wars books could be up there. Now, there are some Star Wars books that are up there. I will say, out of the new canon, my number one is Thrawn, the first Thrawn book by Timothy Zahn. Timothy Zahn gets a total pass on all of this stuff because Thrawn is a character he has put 20 or 30 years of love into. So when he writes Thrawn, you're getting that same quality of one of these other master artists who has crafted this world and this characters and their complexity, and you're getting absolute brilliance on every page. So all of Timothy Zahn's books come highly recommended for me. However, what's canon right now is Thrawn, and then Thrawn Alliances, and then very, very soon, I think like in a week and a half, Thrawn Treason comes out, the conclusion to this trilogy. That one, absolutely, I'm getting that one right away, and I might not even make any videos for a couple of days, because I might just say, boom, I'm reading this book as fast as I can. Generally, though, I take probably about 2 weeks to finish a Star Wars book, just because I'm so busy with other things. Like, I have to really manufacture time and I do a lot on Audible, so I can get a little bit in the car when I'm going to work, and a little bit on the way back and stuff like that. So I try to squeeze in time when I can. But yeah, for me, the biggest thing is when I'm painting. If I got some Legion stuff that just came out, I'll sit down, I'll paint, I'll turn on Audible, I'll listen to an audiobook, I'll paint, and might be able to kill like 3 hours that way if I'm really lucky. Like if the kids all go to bed early and I've got no other distractions, I'm good. But usually I don't have 3 hours to myself. It's kind of why I like doing a live stream from time to time, because it gives me some time to like not have to do anything else, so I can just hang out and talk to you guys. All right, so Thrawn, very, 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 very good. Now, Claudia Gray is another good author. She has written her masterpiece, which is Lost Stars. That's, for a lot of people, they'll say that's the #1 Star Wars book. I don't completely disagree with him. I just personally put Thrawn maybe just an inch higher because of my personal love for that character. However, Lost Stars is definitely up there, and it's practically a tie with Thrawn, but I put Thrawn up. So Thrawn's my #1, Lost Stars is my #2. Lost Stars is it's a classic tale. It's taking some classic tropes and applying them in a Star Wars setting. It's written very, very, very well. It will make you feel for the characters. She's done a great job with this book, and it also, the setting, it's like behind the scenes of like the entire original Star Wars trilogy. So it's happening in a world that you feel connected to already. So it's taking advantage of the things you're already invested in. That much is very, very cool. Now, Claudia Gray has written a couple of other books that while I have enjoyed, I haven't been as in love with. And I'm trying to think of what the last one was that... I don't know. I have to look them all up right now. I don't have a list of all of her books in front of me, because sometimes like the different authors for the different Star Wars books kind of bleed together. So there's that. But that one's good. Another one that I want to point out is Dark Disciple. This one was a sleeper hit for me. Dark Disciple, one of the most beautiful stories written in such a wonderful way. Dark Disciple, phenomenally good book. Surprised. I didn't expect it to be even half as good as it was, and I was completely floored. It brought me to tears, and I love when a book can do that. So those are three you should check out. And yeah, all right. So let's see. Let's see what else I got a couple more questions. I got a few more minutes. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit longer, not much longer. Hopefully, I can get to everybody's questions. Let's see. Oh wait, Legion. Let's see. What ships do you hate fighting against in Armada for both sides? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say I hate fighting anything. I'm really happy to be doing Armada, a game at all, to be fighting against anything. I'll say there are certain things that certainly feel more intimidating, at least on the surface. Like if your opponent's got MC-30s, or like an MC-30 with admonition and Lando, that's scary. So I can certainly feel intimidated by something like that. And maybe like a really heavily fortified MC-80 that's going to be tough to kill. Like that can be a rough one. Like, because you're like, especially when it puts you in the position where you're like, that's their flagship, and I know I probably need to kill that. But if I start redirecting, and if I have a choice, like I could go for the small ship, which I might not get, or I could start putting some hits on that flagship, because like to kill, a heavily defended MC-80, you need to put a lot of the rounds of attacks. It's going to take multiple shots from all your heavy hitters, and like if it's like round 3 already, or maybe it's round 4 already, you're like, am I even going to have enough time to kill this? And it gives you this tough question. It's like, do I really even put attacks on this ship when I'm probably not going to be able to finish it off? Because by round 4, I'm sure he's got engineering queued up for all the rest of the game, You know, am I even going to be able to finish him? You know, and that's, you know, so like that's a tough one. And sometimes interdictors and sometimes ISDs can do the same thing. But the MC80s are particularly good at that. Admonition is also pretty good with that. Sometimes a Gladiator Demolisher with a good initiative bid can be really scary to go up against as well. Or I'll also throw out when you've brought a very, very light squadron or no squadron build, and they've got like all Y-wings and B-wings, and you're like, or I should say when they've got a lot of bombers, and they have a smart ship base to them. Because like I don't mind going up against heavy bombers if they've got like one ship and like a couple of flotillas, and it's like, all right, so I only need to kill that one ship, and then I've crippled, then I've tabled you. You know, like I don't mind that. But if they like didn't really bring quite so many flotillas, and they've got like 3 or 4 small ships, and like now I've got a lot of ships that I need to kill, and if they split them up, you know, that like so stuff like that is kind of scary. Also, so there's that. So you have any thoughts of Heroes of the Aturi Cluster? You're thinking of getting into it soon. No, so I have not ever played Heroes of the Aturi Cluster, although I know a lot of folks who have. And from what I hear, it's actually a really phenomenal experience. I think it's a great way to, to do some cooperative X-Wing. I think you can do it solo. You can do it solo. This is very, very cool. And I believe it's been updated for 2.0 or is being updated for 2.0. I'm not sure the status on it, but I got a friend who's very, very much into it. And when I used to play more regularly X-Wing, for League nights, we had a whole group that was running it like every once a week. So it's a very cool thing. I almost am surprised like FFG hasn't like jumped on board and like sponsored it, like bought. They probably just can't buy it because it's a Star Wars thing. It's not their own IP. They probably don't have the rights to just buy it from him and start releasing it as their own thing. But like that would be really cool, as if it was like you could go buy a box of Heroes of the Aturi Cluster and it has all the like deluxe designer components, so you don't have to print and play and kind of make it yourself. That would be cool. But definitely it is a very successful community effort, and I love things like that. Let's see, we'll take like 1 or 2 more. Star Killer or Darkside Luke? Well, Star Killer all the way. Like I never really read the Dark Empire series, but I just didn't, I have had it summarized to me, and I was unimpressed with it, like, especially if you go back now and reread it again, like how kind of silly parts of it were. So, and I'm a big fan I love Sam Witwer, and I loved the Force Unleashed games, and I'm really hoping that the new like Jedi Fallen Order game is able to kind of capture some of what Force Unleashed was able to do. Like it was a fun, enjoyable game, and I want Jedi Fallen Order to be fun. Like I don't want it to be something that I play and I just complete in like 1 or 2 nights and then I'm done. Like I don't want it to really be that way. What do I think will be in the Star Wars Armada core set for Clone Wars? Well, first off, I don't know for sure. There will be a core set for Clone Wars. I want to caveat that. But I predict that there will be. I think that there will be. And if they do, I think the Venator is probably... I think the Venator is probably the most obvious. And, gosh, what is the Separatists? Hold on. I got to look it up because I forget a lot of the Separatist ship types. It wouldn't be the Malevolence. Oh my goodness. There's 2 Separatist ships that are very, very common, and I think it would be one of those 2. Oh my gosh, Confederate military. No. I'm looking it up right now because I want to see if I can give the specific one. No. Separatist Navy. There we go. No. All right, well, never mind. But basically, it would be, the munificent, the Munificent, the Munificent class frigates. I think that would be probably the Munificent. And the Providence class, I think, is another good one that we'll see. I just don't know. I think the Munificent is a little bit more recognizable because I think it was in more scenes. You saw a lot more of those. So I think you'll see a Munificent versus a Venator in the core set. And because also those are the most common ships. And so they also expect people would buy a Munificent and Venator expansion in addition to the core set. And in the launch wave, maybe you also get an Acclamator and a Providence, shortly thereafter. And then beyond that, there's not as many options for the Republic, so I think they'll dig a little deeper into some. I mean, there are options. There's probably at least 7 ships for the Republic they could make right off the bat without having. And we also have another season of Clone Wars coming out. They might have more ships in the background. They can also dig into early Rebellion and Empire stuff too. I did watch the Clone Wars show. I didn't like it. I know you're going to say, like, what? How could you not like the Clone Wars? There's a reason. There's a story behind that. It's one of those deals where I watched it out of order because it was originally out of order. I didn't know that there was like a Google. I didn't know that it was out of order. And I thought the order I was watching it was the normal order. So I was so confused. I started to get angry because it didn't make sense to me. And then I got angry, and then I stopped paying very much attention. So I would just have it on in the background. I'm like, can we just get through this episode? It doesn't make sense. So I barely even paid attention to it. So I was mentally not in the position to sit down and enjoy the Clone Wars. So when Disney Plus comes out, I'm going to rewatch the Clone Wars. And I really, really hope they have a chronological order so I can watch without feeling like, wait a second, they were all in jail in the last episode. How are they rescuing how are they attacking a bounty hunter in this next episode? And then, next season, it goes back to, they're in jail again. What is going on? It was so confusing to me. But yeah. And let's see, what are some of the worst EU books you have read? Gosh, I haven't read a lot of EU books since I read a couple of EU books when I was a teenager. I liked them at the time, but people really give the Jedi Academy trilogy and the Kevin J. Henderson books a hard time. I loved them at the time. I feel like Shadows of the Empire had a lot of really weird stuff going on with it too. I remember there was a line of when they were sneaking through the sewers of Coruscant, and Luke was talking about how he could smell poop, and it grossed him out because he recognized that the fact that he could smell poop meant that there were poop particles in the air, and they had to go into his body for his nose to be able to smell them, meant that he was actually ingesting poop or something like that. And I was just like, did they really need to go into that kind of detail? I don't know if you remember, and I'm probably misrepresenting the exact way it was worded, but it was something like that about Shadows of the Empire. I was just like, that was silly. Now, Shadows of the Empire was still great at the time because it was one of the most highest canon things that we had, and so I just actually spawned a whole new line of toys, and we had video games for it, and all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, some of the writing was weird. All right, guys, I'm going to be. Do you think they'll make a Django Slave 1? Yeah, I bet you they will. I don't think it'll be right away. I think it'll be kind of later on when they start running out of other things to make, but I think they will make a Django Slave 1. Would not surprise me. And I think he'll be separatist. I don't think he'll be scum and villainy. I think he'll be separatist because he worked specifically for them. So, be interesting. All right, guys. Well, that's it. I am going to sign off. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. And I will see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, have a great day.